Let's just face it, the word theory has something innately boring about them. Until we realize that theories are not just a text that are tucked in our in the syllabus of our textbooks, or nowadays in the e-books. These are patterns which are already there, which we already subconsciously absorb, but we do not know that it is as easy as that. We see it as something really drab. Anyways, I'm going to talk about four economic theories that have stuck to me with passage of time. We keep studying about economic theories, or whichever subject that we have opted for as a stream of our life. Whether we actually build up on it is a different issue, but we study a lot of theories in our lifetime, and there are theories that have stuck to me. And when I thought about it, I realized that I take a lot of them. I draw from them uh, in my usual existence. So I'm going to share what I take from them, and then perhaps whoever happens to be here could also analyze what theories in whichever subject interests them the most, and whether a pattern could emerge from those interests. So without complicating things a lot, all those people who are actually aware of economic theories are going to find it easy, and for those people who are not from the economic stream are not going to find it rocket science either, if they choose to stick around for a few minutes. So yeah, here I begin. So one theory that really stuck to my mind, even if time has gone by, is Arthur Lewis' dual sector theory. Now, in simple terms, what he said was that if there is transfer of labor from low productivity sector to high productivity sector, there can be greater capital formation in the sense that the society can make more money, which can eventually lead to higher incomes per capita, that is per person. So what he was actually saying was, if people that are too many people who are involved in agriculture, which is a low productivity sector, uh, could could be transferred to the manufacturing sector. So in that way, the disguised employment that we have here in the agriculture sector would be put to good use here in the manufacturing sector, and that's how more profit can be generated. Now, this is not something that I'm going to delve in, because there were a lot of criticisms also, and at the same time a lot of he there was a lot of appreciation of what Arthur Lewis had articulated, the pattern he found. But this particular thing is not always applicable. But my takeaway, since I'm talking about why things stuck to my mind, was that what he was basically saying was that after you have taken care of one sector in your life, move on to another. So after, in what he was saying was that after agriculture has been taken care of, and there are a lot of people who are involved into this sector, can be transferred into manufacturing, usually in developing countries. It's not the problem of people not willingly not transferring themselves to a higher productivity sector, but because we don't have much investments in the economy in form of manufacturing sector. So these people rot in the primary sector. Their productivity is next to zero. But as I said, my takeaway was, go step by step. Do not jump to manufacturing before agriculture has been taken care of. Uh, because there are many in developing countries. There's another trend. that we've got a lot of population to feed. So make sure that agriculture production has been taken care of, and until manufacturing is taken care of, do not shift to service sector or the tertiary sector. So this is usually the problem that's plaguing the developing countries, because people, they just follow the trends in the Western market, they follow the trends in the market, indigenous market, domestic market, and accordingly occupation is decided or is chosen, because it's so much dearth of employment that whichever sector seems to promise you some demand, that's the sector which attracts maximum labor. So in this is exactly what's happening in India as well. We have so much volatility in the prices of the food products, even though it is said that we are one of the largest producers of food, yet in 2015, and it's just not in 2015, this is what I read, that in 2015 our food imports was 1.1, excuse me, just a moment, 148,000,000. It's pretty much like that, how Siri says 0, 0, 0, 0. So many zeros, right? So I'll make a video on that issue later on. So there's still a lot of volatility, so there's something still amiss when it comes to agriculture production and its distribution. And we already hopped on to service sector, because that was one way of employing yourself without much attention to manufacturing, which is the pillar, which is a cornerstone of every transitioning economy's cornerstone of every transitioning economy. So what I took away from it, as I already said, I related it to Maslow's law of pyramid of needs. So the basic need of everyone is physiological, then they move to safety, then they move to love and belongingness, then they move to esteem, then they move to self-actualization. Usually the developing countries people, the majority of the developing countries people are stuck in these three needs, that is physiological, that is food, shelter, then safety, security is the second one, love, belonging. So they keep revolving in these. There is an entrapment of sorts, whereas people whose needs are taken, these three needs are taken care of, like it happens in advanced countries. Most population are not struggling with these three basic needs. They graduate to building up their esteem, that is their confidence, and they also self-actualize, that is there's much more investment of time, effort, money, resources into finding things that align with people's passion, that aligns with greater or higher vibrational activities. So even though higher vibrational activities may have started here, which we'll talk about later in one of my another favorite theories, but then they got built up elsewhere, that's in advanced countries. So this is what it is. Go step by step. Don't hop on without taking care of your physiological needs. Don't try to hop on to your esteem. Don't try to hop on to self-actualization. It could be taken care of in a parallel way, but otherwise you're just one of those fakirs or sadhu who are sitting by the roadside, and they are talking, they're giving sermons on how to become millionaires. People don't take you seriously. So build up on your day-to-day needs, that is build up on your security, build up on your family, get yourself grounded through your relationships, your connection, family, friends, etc. So this is the first This is the first theory that usually stays with me. The second theory is Gunnar Myrdal's theory, which is known as circular causation theory. Now, don't get stuck in the name. What he actually meant was that poor remain poor, rich become richer. So it is sort of, I saw when I was first introduced to this theory, I saw it as an antithesis to catch-up effect. What's catch-up effect? That the per capita income of a smaller city or region catches up with the per capita income of a advanced country. It's pretty much like pressure, very low pressure in one area and high pressure in other area. They eventually become equal. There is an equalizer. It's seen as there is an equalizer effect, equalizing effect, whatever. They get equalized with time, because the per capita income, the growth is faster once the process starts in developing countries. It rises by leaps and bounds, whereas the growth has already taken place to quite an extent in advanced countries. So to maintain that growth rate is a bigger challenge for the advanced countries. So this is the long and short of it, of the catch-up effect. But what Gunnar Myrdal said was that the backward regions, especially in the developing countries, they tend to remain backward, and the developed regions they get more developed, they get more advanced. Now this particular theory, just a moment. Yeah, this particular aspect can be connected to not just backward regions and advanced region in one particular country. It is applicable to advanced countries and backward countries, or developing or underdeveloped countries. Why? Because there are two effects. There is one spread effect and there is one backwash effect. Spread effect is the positive aspect of being in connection with an advanced country. So let's say that which country is the apple of the eye? Let's say it's US, because their per capita, it has the highest GDP. Okay, so let's take example of Indian people moving out to US in search of job, or they've gotten a job, or they eventually got a job after being students there. So what happens? They send a little bit of money back home, but that's not exactly making their families empowered or their countries empowered. And there is a reason behind this. The reason is because eventually there's flight of, it's not clear, things are not clear. Sorry, for some reason the camera is not clear. It's more unclear than ever. Okay, fine. So there's flight of labor, or migration. So the young crowd of the house, the young people of the house have moved away. The ones that are remaining are middle-aged and older people. They are not exactly the productive class of the family, and eventually they are not the productive class of the region, and eventually not for the productive class of the country. So you've lost your most productive section of the family slash region slash nation in form of migration. Then there's flight of capital also. So if you have money, since the rate of return is higher in a more advanced region, so money also goes in the advanced region. So if your son or your daughter is staying in an advanced region, whether in the same country or elsewhere, which is more developed, what happens? They'll try and make more and more investments in that advanced region itself, buy houses there, maybe make investments in other forms yeah, they'll make investments in other forms staying in the same advanced region, because the rate of returns would be higher there. They would not want to go and buy themselves a house in a small little region, in some small little backward region. They'll buy themselves a house in the bigger region, even though that house might be very small, so or big or medium sized, whatever be the case. But they usually like to stick in the bigger cities because of the rate of return is, and the infrastructure and the standard of living, everything is better, so they don't exactly transfer the capital there. They don't transfer themselves, which is this being the working class, the most productive class. So even though I did not read it anywhere, what could be the solution of it, but I imagined that there could be another theory that could come to a country's, a family's rescue, and that's Rostow's stages of growth theory. Uh, what was that theory? Rostow, he said that every society goes through a certain journey towards, when it moves towards more development, economic development. It starts with traditional society, when more and more people, the majority of the population is engaged with the primary sector or occupation. More and more people are with the agriculture. Their mindset is in a certain way, and not many people stay around in that area. That's traditional society for you. But what really changes things is whenever money starts coming in. For example, let's take the example of Bombay or Mumbai, right? And they have many peripheral regions which can be seen as the backward region. Now they are no more backward, but once upon a time they were. So those peripheral regions could be called the suburbs. So initially, the bigger city, the core city, was used to get resources from many different resources in the form of labor, raw materials from the peripheral regions. So what happened? The agriculture or the primary occupations in those peripheral regions or suburbs, they got a boost. So they started developing. If if that process was of development was not self-perpetuating, at one point in time or the other, that process would have stopped when the more advanced region had used to take resources and labor and everything else that was of some importance or significance to them. And then there would have been regression in the economy. So when things start to pick up for your family, for your region, for the nation, just make sure that the backwardness of your place of belonging does not continue by taking care of these factors. What are these factors? These factors are, like, you got to make, just a moment. All right. So make sure, as a family, if money starts coming in and you don't plan to stay in the same region, make sure that you make new investments. That let the source of income not just be one. Let there be many investments in many different fields. Small little rivulets, create small little rivulets so that they can all converge and become a river or good liquidity source. This is particular. I'm making reference to one of my videos which was about trees and rivers and how they can be connected to liquidity in your own surroundings. So make many different investments. Let there not be over dependence on one stream of income. Then let the infrastructure be improved. So the house that you stay in should be improved, and there should be some mode of mobility. So let there be some vehicles. because when there are vehicles bought in all or most houses that have their that have their children working elsewhere, uh, there the region would have mechanics, the region would have showrooms, there would be service stations. So if you make house, there would be employment and an industry of real estate that would spring up. If you make new investments, financial sector may develop, and then uh, credit institutions make FDs, make or take make other kinds of small little investments in financial institutions. If you can make help people open small little or medium sized business ventures. So if you give money to one of your people to open some kind of a shop, so what you do, you're making a self-perpetuating ecosystem where abundance is creating abundance. So that is why my takeaway is, since abundance attracts abundance, poverty attracts poverty. So if you work on Rostow's preconditions for takeoff, that is investments, creating greater investments, building up on your infrastructure, building up on your regions or your family's credit sources, making investments in new businesses, that is going to be a sure shot way to create abundance. So if the son is moving out, so let his father get involved in a new business. Let the house get a renovation. Let a new car or new vehicle be bought. Let the income source be diversified. So this is the second theory that stays with me. The third theory that is hardly a theory, but it has stayed with me, and that's called product life cycle. So every time, we all know most of the inventions are done in advanced countries because their investment percent in R&D is much higher than the developing or underdeveloped countries. So what usually happens, that they create something new, these developed countries, an idea is born through R&D, and then there is growth where this country is making a lot of money, their profit margins are quite high, but then they reach a certain saturation point and the production shifts towards other countries, developing countries, and this is the stage of maturity, and then finally things decline. This is the time when new technology is about to come. So this is the path any new technology follows. For example, computers. Most of the PCs were introduced in US, and then they were only a few high income groups were availing that. But then the technology got more promotion, they got more exposure, the people were exposed to that technology, and more people bought it. So that was the time of growth, and that was the time where computer companies, PC companies there made a lot of profit. But then eventually they started selling, when there was tapering off the profits, they started selling it to other countries, mostly developed countries. But then even after that, the next stage was when it moved to developing countries. Now developing countries are the ones where innovations take place. Developed countries are the ones where inventions take place. Developing countries are the ones where innovation takes place. But that innovation is also, it comes with a price, and that interested me quite a bit. It is called the let's say note page. All right, this is called the innovation paradox. This is called the innovation paradox, and it usually happens in developing countries. It has been found that the more you pay attention to innovation, the less likely you are to get successful. That's because the environment, the decision making process is very conservative. There's a lot of people are risk averse, people are uncertainty averse, people are they want to stick to time frames, they want to stick to limited resources, they want to make optimum utilization of the resources they have. So it's a very stifling process, stifling environment in most developing countries. So there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, and I spoke about it in my previous video in the DNA and consciousness, that fear gets recorded in our DNAs. So if our father or grandfather did some business and he faced some loss, so the next many generations would be fearful to venture into something new. And the next thing is, if our country has faced many invasions, has faced a lot of betrayals, it has been under imperial rule, it loses confidence as a country, as a nation. So lots and lots of generation and work, confidence building work is required to get back to your feet. So what happens when you are trying to innovate and you are in a developing country? So all these factors, they get better of you, and innovation gets sabotaged. So even if you are sitting in your drawing room trying to discuss it with your parents or your siblings, or your not siblings, usually they are more encouraging, but then other people, and they are not convinced with your idea, no matter how much promise it may have, you tend to get discouraged, and most innovative ideas die at the first stage. So what is required is to create a greenhouse environment, that is, make a group of people who believe in what you believe in, and then carry on with your innovation. And when it comes into the first stage of profit making, let that idea get exposure then. So all those in developing countries, all those dynamic people who are toying with innovative ideas, build up on it. When you see some first sign of success, let it be known. Otherwise, the negative environment then would lead to collapse of your idea. So this was another one. Last, you know how things progressed with all economic theories. It was, first of all, laissez-faire, that is free market, invisible hand, free lot demand and supply, like all those ideas that, and specialization, all those ideas that Adam Smith proposed. And it went in alignment with capitalism. So if you had it in you, you would succeed. But things deteriorated, and people were trying to maximize their profit. So it was Karl Marx that led to change, where people started questioning capitalism. So he talked about how the people were exploited. So the next stage was Alfred Marshall's neoclassical economy, right? If you will all remember, it's a lot of mathematics in the neoclassical economics. Marginal utility, marginal product, marginal productivity, saving, investments, Cobb-Douglas theorem, etc., production theorem, that is. There were a lot of mathematics. And then came a time where consumer and producers' decision making was analyzed. And then monetarism, where Milton Friedman said that the government should minimize their role and just print a certain amount of money every year, and that's that. Don't do much more than that. I, to an extent, agree with him. So that is how things progress. So it was the third stage theory. That stayed with me, and I'm winding things up. It is asymmetrical information. Like in lockdown times, there were people who were charging 350 rupees for one tube light, the LED one. They said that, we are not getting the supply, so if people were in dire needs of a tube light or LEDs in at their place, they had to buy that one piece for 350. Whereas if they had explored more at other shops, there were shops that were selling it at 250. There were shops, then there were online where you could buy things at 220 rupees per piece. So this was the asymmetrical information that actually leads to profits of some of the sellers and losses of some of the buyers, and vice versa. So excuse the sound, please. And the same thing happens with not just the sellers, but also things can be other way around. Like for the banks, they may give away loans to people who may run away with the amount without paying it back, no matter how many checks and balances. Is it called checks and balances? The uh, process of uh, assuring that a certain person is worth giving loans to. So there are frauds that still take place. So this is asymmetrical information. So the only perhaps way out is that do thorough inquiry before plunging into anything. So this is the summary that I have written, hardly visible, but yeah, I'll speak. If you want to build up on your life, go step by step. Build up on your basic needs, then higher needs. First, make sure you have food on your table, shelter. Then you are well secured. Then you have your family well placed and happy. And then, of course, then you can build up on higher things. So this was about the Arthur Lewis theory. Then the next one was Gunnar Myrdal's. So build up, make a self-perpetuating model for your family or your region or your country by making more and more investments, building up on your infrastructure or renovating the infrastructure, expanding the infrastructure, increasing the number of increasing the source of income, helping people make. If you are not interested to create a new business, give credit to people so that no new businesses spring up, so the whole region would have a vibrant economy that way. This was the second one. The third one is the product cycle one. So create your product in a way, make innovations in your product or process or business model in a way that it is shielded from negativity, and then once it shows some signs of success, bring it to light. The last one is be sure that you have made thorough inquiry about things so that the asymmetry in the information is not used against you. It's pretty much the common example is when you're trying to sell your car, you would not talk about how many times your car has gone to the service station or the mechanic or whatever. So this is what it is. I would wind things up by saying just see through what interests you more in terms of theories that you have studied. Maybe that would be revelatory in some form. So these things have helped me get more clarity. Alright, this is pretty much it. Bye.